Hi, my name's Leah Salmon from Teaching Our Own, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a talk on can homeschooling prevent the prison to school pipeline for the Black Agenda event tackling the schools to prison pipeline held by Cheryl Phoenix Henry. Thank you so much for inviting us to come on and talk about homeschooling as an alternative to sending our children to school if we feel that the schools are not the best place for our children, or we feel that our children are heading in the wrong direction by being in the public school system. So a little bit about me quickly. My name's Leah Salmon. I'm one of the co-founders of the Teaching Our Own Black Homeschooling Fair event and website. I am a homeschooling mother of 5 children aged between 2 and 9. My children have never actually been to school, so I've homeschooled them the whole time. During the time of homeschooling, during the 9 years that I've been homeschooling, I identified later on in the process that homeschooling fairs and the homeschooling resources that were available to homeschoolers were mainly geared towards people of Caucasian descent. The homeschooling fairs that I had been to, that I found very useful and motivating for my homeschooling journey when I went to them, they were completely unrepresentative of all of the homeschoolers of color that I knew, even though I found them very beneficial to go to and very motivating and inspiring, which is what led us to create a homeschooling fair that was dedicated to children of color, children and parents of children of African and Caribbean descent. It's a event that we first held last year. We're going to be holding another one again this year, and it's to help empower and inform parents and children and parents of children of African or Caribbean descent to look at homeschooling as a more viable option, and providing talks and seminars and resources to help your homeschooling journey however you want to take it. So that's a bit about me and the organization, but today we're going to really be focusing on how homeschooling can help our children to go in the path and the direction that we would more want for them to go in, as opposed to the direction that we see so many of our young people going in today. The first thing I want to make very clear at the beginning of this talk is that a child's education, their cultural development, their discipline, and their emotional and mental well-being is not the sole responsibility of the state, the government, or the school. It's the responsibility of their parents. And by law, parents have to ensure that their children are either attending a school that suits their needs, or is provided with education otherwise. And that's a very key point. Provided with an education or sent to a school that suits their needs. And we are not just talking about if you have a special needs child, you send them to a special needs school. We are talking about if you identify that the school that your child is in, or the school system that your child is in, does not cater to their needs, and there is clear evidence that all the other children in your child's situation, Black males could be one of those criteria we're talking about right now, have historically and categorically been let down by the school system. Maybe the school system is not the best place for your child. Even if you know of one particular school, one particular borough that is consistently letting down children of color, maybe that is not the borough or the school district you want your child to go to. So, how do we as parents, how and when do we as parents, furthermore, get to do this? How do we get to ensure that our children are either being provided with education otherwise, or attending a school that suits their needs? So let's look at some figures. Let's consider some figures. School children in primary school spend about 6 hours a day in school, 5 days a week. That's about 30 hours in school. Our primary school children are spending roughly 30 hours in school. When they get to secondary school, they spend 8 to 9 hours a day there, depending on their after-school clubs or commitments, their travel time to and from school, which is about 40 to 45 hours a week. Once a child comes back from school and they eat and they dress, they relax, they chill out for a minute, they do their homework, they bathe, how much remaining time do they have with their parents? The parents who are meant to be ensuring that their child is being provided with an education that's suitable for them. How much time also do most working parents have in the evening after coming home from work to do all of that as well. And even if you're not necessarily a working parent, even if you're a parent that stays at home, or you work part-time, or you're self-employed even, after school, you still have to go through that process with your child. You need to make sure your child's eaten and that they've dressed out their school clothes and they have time to relax, they've done their homework, they bathe. Even if you're not working full time, there are some parents who are working and getting home at 8 or 9 o'clock. There's very little time left for a parent and a child to spend with each other in order for the parent to make sure that their child's level of education and their mental and emotional well-being is in the place that they would want it to be. So parents sending their children to school need to ensure they've done the checks necessary to make sure that their children's school is up to scratch and meets the needs of their children, and do as much as they can around their child's time at school to ensure this. So their child's at school for, our children are at school for 30 to 45 hours a week. So if that's where they're spending most of their time, and when they get home, there's very little time for you to spend with them, the best that you're going to be able to do is make sure that the school you send your child to is able to meet their needs and it's up to scratch, because that's the best that you can do if you're sending your child to school. Now, this is what we found over the years. And this is through books, this is through anecdotal information, this is through speaking to parents, this is through statistics. As a community, we've lost our children to a school system which isn't made for them. Parents have given schools, and this is not always a conscious decision. Sometimes this is just circumstantial. We've given schools too much freedom to make decisions for our children. Sometimes the decisions that our school makes for your child, you're not even aware of that decision until your child tells you that they've learned something at school, they've been exposed to something at school, and children don't even remember everything that happens at school. So things that our children are being exposed to, principles, morals, mental conditions, results are what we see in the schools to prison pipeline. Parents have so little time to spend with their children because of the way that society is set up, that it's hard for them to really know that their child is in an environment that's providing their child with all of their needs. So they end up having to trust a system that they don't even know. We don't even know of all the things that the system is comprised of. We don't know of every single aspect of the curriculum that our child is going to be taught unless we do our due diligence and find it all out. But we have to trust this system, trust the teachers, that we can't interview every single teacher that our child is going to come into contact with. So we literally have to trust that the system our children are spending 30 to 45 hours a week in during their very formative years is the best place for them. We have to trust that they're in the best place. All of this results in a few things, because sometimes the trust that we've put in the system has been misguided and misplaced. It's resulted in parents don't know what their children are being taught, and I'm not just talking academically, but culturally and socially. Parents don't have the chance to grow and bond with their children because we don't get to spend enough time with our children. Parents lose the ability to relate to their children because we don't know what's going on in our child's lives anymore, because we need to spend time with them in order to do that, and the time that we have left to spend with them is very little unless we make an invested effort. Parents lose their children to the streets. Parents are losing their children to the state. Parents are losing their children to the police and the probation service, and parents are losing their children to the prison system. All of these things tie in, and the prison system is currently made up of nearly 50% males between the ages of 16 to 25. What is homeschooling, and how can it help any of these situations that we are finding with our children? Firstly, unlike the traditional definition, when I talk about homeschooling, I'm actually talking about anything that you do with your child, either in place of their schooling or around it, to teach them at home. And that's teaching them academically, culturally, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. The schools are not equipped to cater for every single need of our child. In fact, they're only really the only real thing that they promise to do, or that they are meant to be there to do, is really the academic teaching of your children. The spiritual, the cultural, the emotional, the mental, that has always predominantly been our responsibility. But they are areas that the state has started to claim and do that work for parents, whether the parents are even aware of it or not. So how can homeschooling, doing anything with your child, or doing more with your child around their schooling while they're at home with you, reduce the amount of children, the amount of our children that are ending up getting lost in the system, from the streets to the state to the police to the probation service to the prison system? All schools are different. That's granted. There are some schools that are far better than others. We have got some amazing teachers in the community who make a concerted effort to make sure that the children in their school of African and Caribbean descent are provided with external teachers and resources and trips and educational materials that does cater to their needs. I fully understand that, and that work is vital, because not everybody is going to hear this message and do anything about it. So we need more of those teachers in the schools. So yes, all schools are different, but almost all schools still suffer from the same fate. With 20 to 35 children per class and 1 to 2 teachers if you're lucky, it's virtually impossible for schools to cater to every need of every single child. They just aren't equipped to do it. I've got 5 children at home and there's one of me. So my odds are much better than a school teacher who's got 35 children. And it's still a challenge for me to be able to you know, cater to the needs of each one of my 5 children, so that they don't get left behind in any area, and so that they all get to flourish into the amazing beings that we all know our children have got the capability to flourish into. Most schools don't even know the type of learner the children in their classes are. So you've got the audio learners, the visual learners, the hands-on learners, and even if they did know it, there's no way that they would be able to adapt each lesson to suit the needs of each child. There are 30 children in each school. It's going to be in each class. It's going to be very difficult for one teacher to adapt, even though they do their best. And I understand that, in any one lesson, they do have provisions to make the lessons suit the different learning styles. It's still going to be difficult to cater for the needs of each child. And with the emphasis on core academic subjects, mainly focused on Caucasian ideologies, when do our children get the chance to focus on pursuing their passion, their talents, their dreams, their aspirations, and their personal life goals? What school can cater for this for each child? As adults, we know what it's like to have to go to a job that we don't like because we supposedly have to do it. Doing work we don't like because we supposedly have to, and wishing we weren't there. We all know what that's like, having to do something you don't really want to do. How is this different from a child's experience at school? Think about how this is different, or if it's different. You're a child, you're in a class with 30, sometimes 35 other children. You're fighting to get your needs heard and understood. You're trying to let the teacher know that you don't understand what they're teaching without feeling embarrassed in front of the rest of the children. You're not feeling like the school suits you as a black child, maybe with natural hair, with beautiful brown skin, and a love of plantain and ackee and saltfish and callaloo, and you're being fed fish and chips and green peas with ham sandwiches every day. As an adult, how does that make you feel at work when you're having to do work that you don't understand, that you feel that your bosses are not listening to your needs? You're going to feel unmotivated, unenthusiastic, and as an adult, maybe we sometimes still feel troublesome. Why do we expect anything different from our children? In their situation, wouldn't you feel unmotivated, unenthusiastic, and maybe sometimes troublesome too? What does all of this result in? Our children are told off and disciplined because they aren't being treated properly, and they react to that mistreatment. They are told that they are the problem, not a faulty system. Parents are convinced that their children are to blame and not the school. The child feels mistreated, misunderstood, and in the search of change and oftentimes rebellion, sometimes to the very people that put them there, which is their parents. Which is why you see children rebelling against their parents, because it's the parents that are making these children go to these schools that they don't feel accepted or nourished in. Then children fall deeper and deeper into trouble. They fall further away from their greatness and they become another statistic. So, how can homeschooling help? Who are the best people to ensure that their children are learning, loved, praised, and I can't stress that enough, praised for any achievements, taught how great they are, encouraged to follow their personal and professional goals? It's their parents, in my humble opinion. Every mistake that I've mentioned above can be remedied simply by their parents investing more time in ensuring their children stay on the path of progression through education and personal goal achievement, instead of being lost in a system that doesn't even benefit the white children it was made for. While they're at school, if you decide to keep your children in school, some of the things that you can commit to doing is being at every single parent's evening and scrutinizing everything that you're being told that your child is doing. If you can become a school governor, definitely do that. If you can participate in their lessons in any way, definitely do that. Make appointments to visit your child in school or speak to their teacher between parents' evenings to check on their progress so that you can help your child improve on subjects that they are failing in with additional work after school. Take a good hard look at your child and their school and decide if that is actually the best place for your child. Ask yourself if your child is there because it is the best place for them or just out of convenience, because there is always another way. Then 7 things that you can do now to start the process of homeschooling your children are: 1. Set aside 10 minutes a day. Set aside 10 minutes a day to talk to them about their day at school. Listen more than you talk. Don't pass any judgment. Just listen and absorb what it is your children are telling you. They may not want to open up very much at first because they may not be used to having a forum to express themselves without being judged or told off. So in some instances, you may need to regain your child's trust by showing them, anything you tell me, I'm not reacting to it. If you tell me you fell asleep during maths, I'm not going to tell you off. If you tell me you were passing notes or sending text messages during geography, you're not going to get in trouble. I just want you to tell me what's happened at school. 2, do any amount of their homework with them. Even if you don't have a clue what they're doing, sit with them, be attentive, and help in any way that you can, whether that's just spelling, whether that's just, do you want me to do a Google search on this for you, whatever it is. Praise and congratulate any accomplishments that they make during that homework time, but also start taking notes of subjects that they're struggling in so that you can also get them extra help in those subjects. The 3rd thing you can do is find Black history classes, books, talks, seminars, courses, movies, and clubs, and attend or use them with your children once a week. Grounding them culturally, showing them the greatness of their ancestry and how they fit into the greatness of their ancestry and how that ancestry runs through their veins, and if their ancestors do it, there's no reason why they can't do it, is an education that they are not going to get in the traditional school system, yet it is an education that they need to start unlocking some of the damaging perceptions of Black children and Black people that are typically pushed. 4, if you think your child is engaging in criminal or antisocial behavior, find a mentor in the community for them to start working with now. Not when there's been a complaint, not when they're already been arrested a couple of times, right now. Don't feel a way to cast judgment on their friends. If you feel, okay, I don't feel that child is right for you, I think that child is maybe a bit disruptive, that child maybe has a bad reputation. You could be completely wrong, but don't let don't let it go so far until you are proven that you are right. If you feel your child is engaging in criminal or antisocial activity, you deal with it now by you choosing a member of our community as a mentor to start working with them. 5, if you want to take steps to homeschool your child, start researching it now, what you'd need to do to make that a reality, and give yourself a timeline to work towards. The 6th thing you can do is plan in advance. Right now, make a plan to do a practice run of homeschooling a few days a week during their next school holiday, whenever that is. And even if you're not 100% sure whether you definitely want to homeschool, just doing a trial run of it, just so you know what the process would be for you, is still going to be something very beneficial, and it's going to be another opportunity for you to spend quality time with your children, which, as I've said, is so critically important. The 7th thing you can do is visit the website educationotherwise.org and do a search on a deregistration letter. Download it and read up on the process of removing your child from school. The first thing you are going to need to do is fill in a deregistration letter and hand it into your school, and possibly send a copy of it to your local authority as well. But have that plan in place. Know what you need to do if and when you decide you are going to fully take your child out of school and take full responsibility of their education. Teaching Our Own, the Black Homeschooling Fair, is going to be back, and it's going to be held in London, which we hope you can all make it down to. There's going to be speakers and workshops and resources there to help you take back control of your child's mind and lives by empowering the community to start teaching our own. I hope you found this talk useful. Many thanks to Cheryl Phoenix Henry and her team for holding another powerful event. I'm sorry I wasn't there in person to deliver this talk, but I still hope you found it useful. You can also visit teachingourOwn.co.uk and follow the website using the box on the right so that you can get more updates. And you can also follow us on Twitter or Facebook by searching Teaching Our Own. Thank you so much, family. Take care and goodbye.